Okay. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you to everyone who's attending our budget hearing. We're going to kind of go back and forth here. I don't like turning my back to anyone, but we're also live streaming as well. But thank you for all of you for taking the time to be here this evening and to watch. So we are proud of the budget that we are going to share with you today. Throughout this process, we have used three areas to guide our decision-making process, and that included student opportunity and achievement, safety and wellness, as well as fiscal responsibility and long-term planning. So it's important to note that when we started the budget process, we did not look at this as a singular year budget, but we're constantly looking out 5 years down the road as we're making decisions each and every year. From a school district perspective, the process began for us back in November, October, when we began individual meetings with our administrators, and our administrators met with teachers. We received feedback from students in the development of this budget process. But it's really an ongoing, all year long process because it's important to us that our budget reflects the goals and priorities of our community. This year, we are excited to offer expanded opportunities for our students. We are reintroducing family and consumer science to our middle school curriculum. That was based on a tremendous amount of feedback we received from students and parents. The launch of a personal finance curriculum in the middle school, as well as the introduction of new agriculture electives. For the high school, we're continuing to expand our work-based learning opportunities and build partnerships with local businesses and provide our students with real-world experiences. And we're excited that we will be offering a new sign language course this year, as well as a current events and U.S. history course this year. Student engagement and enrichment is also an important part of our elementary program. We are formalizing our elementary drama club. They piloted the program this year. The participation was absolutely tremendous. We are implementing a new high school debate club, and I know that some individuals sitting around this table were instrumental into bringing that to our high school, as well as a continued focus on communication, leadership, and collaboration skills. We're continuing our ongoing musical instrument replacement cycle. Our music program is a huge part of our community, and we're proud to be able to support that process. And then district-wide, we're continuing to invest in professional development, educational programs, and ongoing support of student achievement and engagement. Also, in regards to feedback we received from our community, last year we did start an equipment replacement cycle in our fitness center. That fitness center is utilized by both our students and the community, and so we're continuing that process this year as well.
And it's important to note in everything that Mrs. Taylor just talked about, we've really taken the approach of looking internally, trying to find where we can become more efficient, reallocate resources, invest resources to get a maximum return on investment from those that we already have working here, our faculty and staff, as well as the systems that we have, our schedules. Really, we've looked at everything to try and get more out of what we have.
So I mentioned several new programs, but it's important to note that there is no additional staffing being brought on by those additional programs.
And on that note, we have 7 faculty retirements this year, 7 teacher retirements. We are hiring 3 replacements for those positions, all of which are special education teachers, and the assignments were adjusted according to current student needs. The other positions, again, we were able to adjust within based on our enrollment that we have, recognizing that there are fewer students than there were a few years back. The other thing that we're very excited to share, actually next week, so coming soon before next year, we will be introducing and welcoming an athletic trainer to an 11-month position. While the position is new for Akron, that was created by reducing 2 vacant lifeguard monitor positions that we had and frankly have had difficulty filling. So we've reallocated those resources to have an athletic trainer who will be here throughout the athletic seasons with a flexible schedule. They will be an Akron employee who knows our students, knows our coaches, knows our facilities, and will be with our team. So that's a really exciting thing that we'll have. We'll welcome Mr. Contreras next week.
So there's a few items that we are extremely proud of. We're proud of the fact that we have a very strong financial literacy program. In fact, our teacher, Mrs. Saley, contributed to discussions with the Board of Regents to help support statewide decisions being made in that area. We're proud of our Science of Reading program at the elementary school. That is a program that our district has proven to be a leader in, and we very often host teachers from other school districts to learn more about our program and how we have it implemented. We're excited about new business and entrepreneurial opportunities with Tigers Innovation. And we also wanted to put a shout out for student passion projects and Audrey and her Read to Lead program. So congratulations to Audrey.
So one of the three aspects of our budget between programming and staffing, the other aspect of it is administration, and the third part is in regards to our buildings and grounds, or our capital. Capital relating to, just the nuts and bolts that go on with the campus in and of itself. The first thing that's kind of important to know is that starting last year, this board and our district recognized the opportunity to go after a capital outlay project. What a capital outlay project is it allows the district to go up to $100,000 in which you budget it in and you spend it, and then those funds are basically reimbursed the following calendar year for improvements within the capital. This past year, we had outlaid $100,000 and utilized it towards the replacement of doors and entry points throughout the school district. This next year, we'll be doing the same sort of thing, but with this case, we'll be focusing on an outdated or end of service life for our pool scoreboard and timing system. It's been in place since the pool was initially opened, so it's 20 plus years, it's into service life, so this will allow us to go through and make those replacements. The advantage to the capital outlay is that this $100,000 essentially will be reimbursable by the state through the capital project program, and what we will see is typically somewhere in the ballpark of 80 to 85% return on an investment. So this past year, in regards to our doors, we outlaid $100,000 and got back from the state $82,500, meaning that the district only essentially spent $17,500. The advantage of this is that with any capital outlay project, whether it be big or small, the funds are held within New York State. So unless the district goes after those and goes through a process of approval for that, you're not gonna get that back. It's something that is separate from foundation aid and something that is totally different. We have been over the course of the last several years asking New York State through our advocacy with our legislators to see if that could be increased to $250,000. So waiting on the budget, that was something that was toyed around last year, but we do advocate for that, and it's a way that we can go through and review our building condition survey, see what's next on our list in regards to items that are either near end of service life or could be in disrepair. We have emergency, repair project. It's something that gives us a little bit more flexibility to go through and make those allocated, use these allocated funds for that project.
So again, just to summarize this, really important, the most important part of this, a year ago, we sat here asking for $100,000, justifying that in the budget. For anybody watching or looking at this later, know that $100,000 was able to bring back 82.5 that will come to us next year, allowing us to continue doing this work at bringing $100,000 worth of work for a much lower price. And that definitely a great way to bring dollars back that we've already paid in New York that go to Albany are going to be distributed somewhere. Why not bring them back to Akron?
And the second part of our, if you've driven down Bloomingdale Road, you've seen the installation of the grandstands and the construction of the turf field and track that are being finalized. Those are all part of the towards the final end of our 2023 capital improvement project, which is slated for completion at the end of the summer, meaning that facility will be open for the fall sports and the start of the school year. There are other aspects of that, not only that, but reconstruction in the main entrance for security, some of the realized savings in successful bid dates for the first and second phase, along with having a contingency budget in place that really wasn't utilized. So those added funds have come through, and we've allocated those towards a phase 3, which will again be done throughout the course of the summer for some additional security, some signage, baseball bullpens. So it's some other features that were originally kind of captured in the start of the project, but put to the side as costs were figured, and as funds were made available, these can now be added back in without any sort of additional monies needed.
If we wanted to clarify that, because we did receive some questions, curious about if this year's budget was used in part to fund work that was not able to be completed as part of the 2023 capital improvement project. So we just wanted to clarify that is not the case. That project fiscally ran very well for us, and we did have bid day savings that allowed us to actually do more work than we had anticipated.
The other item that we have in there as well that would be a separate line item on your ballot is in regards to our transportation proposition this year. We are going through and purchasing 266 passenger diesel buses along with 2 van gasoline type buses with an estimated total cost of about $572,000. This will be reimbursable through state transportation aid as well. This is something that we go through every year. We do have, very similar to the musical replacement process, we do have in place a replacement cycle. So the buses that get towards end of service life can be transferred either if they're high mileage or high repair rates, they can be replaced or utilized as spare buses in case of a breakdown. But again, it's part of our ongoing process through transportation just to maintain that they are more fiscally responsible in regards to newer vehicles versus repair costs. So it's just something that is ongoing. Just as a side note, I note that these are both internal combustion engine vehicles. Currently, the state has a mandate in place in regards to zero emission busing. However, while we have been advocating to Albany and to our legislators about that process of converting over, the timeline is still in place, and we are working with our design team. We are working with our local municipalities, with our public power community, to see what steps need to be taken for the next steps in EV busing. So it is something that is ongoing. It is something that we are working towards with these surveys and studies. But however, right now, as it stands, we are currently going to be purchasing these as regular internal combustion engine vehicles.
So in terms of the financial details of the budget, boiling it down to year over year, the current 25-26 budget was just a tad bit over $39 million. The proposed budget that will be up for vote next week is about $40.8 million. That's a proposed increase of about $1.8 million, or a proposed expenditure increase of 4.6%. From a revenue standpoint, see the revenues below, and we'll go through a breakdown momentarily. All of these details will be in the budget mailer that was sent last week, and may, if it's not in your mailboxes yet, will be in a mailbox near you very soon. With that being said, obviously we have to balance the budget, but something that I want to make sure is clear is that while there's an increase of 4.6% in expenditure for a variety of reasons that we'll go over in a moment, the proposed tax levy increase is 2.5%, which, as I'll mention right now, is below the cap. The tax cap, it's a fairly complicated formula. Board meetings throughout the winter, we've talked about this before. And for Akron next year, with the different exclusions and exceptions, that calculation would be at 3.30%. We are proposing a levy at 2.5%, which would increase the levy in terms of a dollar value by about $267,000. Again, want to make it clear that that is well below the allowable 3.3% cap. It's always difficult at this time of the year to show a projection. People will ask, well, what are my taxes going to be? What is the rate going to be? There's a number of complicating factors, and to be quite honest, as many people know, the town of Newstead, including the village of Akron, so the majority of our district residents, there is a reassessment going on. There's a reassessment that will take place every couple of years. Frankly, that complicates the explaining of this. Is counterintuitive as it would sound. Often, virtually every time a reassessment takes place, the tax rate that you'll actually see on your bill in the fall will go down. And the simple reason for that is as properties are reassessed and values are brought up to the market value, the levy does not change. So I want to bring this point up to say, just bring up a moment ago, I mentioned that a dollar value associated with the levy, about $267,000. That is the amount, that is the authority that we have as a school district to put that on the ballot. If it's approved, that is the dollar amount of the levy that's collected. The rates ultimately are determined after the assessed values. So really the reassessment and the budget and the actual tax rate, they're not directly connected like many people would think. That being said, if all factors were the same, I just said that they're not, but if all factors were the same, there's a chart up here showing the current tax rate, and if we were to plug in the levy for this year with last year's tax rate, with the tax rates, the equalization rates from the prior year, again, looking at Newstead being our largest number of households, the rate would go from about $8.94 to $9.17, or an increase of 23 cents per thousand. I won't get into the complicated math on that because equalization rates have changed as well, but doing my best here. Bottom line is the point that I want to make is that the levy is always a fixed number that is not directly tied to something like a reassessment. Speaking of the levy, historically, here's a chart that shows the allowable limit, so what the tax cap calculation was in the left-hand column. Again, you'll see at the very bottom, we're at 3.3% for the proposed budget, rather for the levy for this year, and the proposed levy is at 2.5%. And our levies that have gone to vote have been anywhere from 0 to 2.5% really over the last 6 years. From a state aid standpoint, I want to touch on our foundation aid. That's the aid that really drives our programs. As of today, May 12th, there is still not a state budget in place despite the announcement that was made and kind of a false start last week. Anxiously awaiting that, but we don't want to assume anything. At this point, the governor's proposal has granted Akron and about 68% of the districts in the state a 1% increase. And the reason for that, Akron is designated, like many other districts, as save harmless. And that means that based on the current state aid formula and slightly declining enrollment, the formula would indicate we would receive less aid than the prior year. Rather than giving us less aid, it says that you can receive no more than, or no less rather than what you received the year before. The governor has said, we'll give you 1%. Both houses at this point have proposed 2%. There's a chance that could make the final budget. We've constructed a budget that does not assume or rely on that. And so there are some contingencies as a result. If you dig into the numbers and just see a summary, you would see that overall aid is up about a little over $700,000. And you might think, well, that doesn't really match what I just said. Something that I want to note for everybody listening or watching is that much of that aid increase outside of the 1%, which is only about $117,000, is tied to building aid, and that was anticipated to come back to us. Last year, we had quite a drop in building aid, and that was planned, and it was as a result of us paying off prior capital projects and prior debt. And there was a planned one-year drop, if you will. Our debt dropped off, therefore our corresponding aid dropped off. Debt with the new project came back on, the corresponding aid is coming back on. So really the majority of that aid increase is tied to planned debt. It's not $700,000 right into the program. The other thing that is uncertain out there, that was a big item that was in the governor's budget, is an increase in UPK aid, and we're watching this carefully. At this time, all that's out there is that there was a proposal for $10,000 per UPK student with no other details or whether there's requirements or strings attached or anything of that nature. Again, we've tried to build a conservative, responsible budget. This is an area we're anxiously awaiting details for as well when the budget is finally released. As of, again, 7 p.m., no updates. These numbers were already up in different forms already. Again, about $48.8 million, including a total levy of about $10.95 million, up about $267,000. State aid broken down here by categories again. And again, the biggest number to really note, if you look up at the very top, that foundation aid is only going up 1%. 1% is about $117,000. And of course, in a budget, there are contractual increases, there's cost increases, but everything goes up more than 1%. Other sources of revenue, again, here to round out the overall budget. And a pie chart showing again that state aid making up, just under half of our proposed or expected revenue, property taxes a little over a quarter, and then a number of other sources making up the last 25 to 30%. From an expenditure standpoint, we always present the budget. Every school is required to in 3 parts. The program budget, which is our instructional program. We're in the business of educating kids. That should be the largest piece. The capital component, which includes our facilities. It also includes some of our spending on debt service and items of that nature, and then our administrative component. The administrative component is the smallest, as hopefully it should be. Those numbers are relatively similar to last year. If you were to really look at the numbers, you'd see capital grew a bit, and that is because of that debt service coming back on. It was abnormally smaller, which kind of inflated the other 2 areas last year with having less aid and less debt service. So that's, again, very reflective of the prior years that we've had without some anomaly. And as a breakdown, that 11%, here are the numbers behind that in each area. Again, all these details are in a mailbox near you and on our website. Our program component and our capital component, which, as I just mentioned, besides the facilities piece of things, also includes our debt service items, which would be paying for our bans and bonds that are associated with past capital projects, as well as transportation with buses. Should the budget be defeated next week, the law requires us to set a contingency budget, which essentially would remove all non-essential equipment purchases. Those total about $243,000. Also, up for debate or discussion about removal would be the $100,000 proposal for the capital outlay project, totaling about $343,000. As a result, the tax levy would need to be reduced to the prior year amount of $10,684,980, which would be a flat 0% increase.
So where and when to vote? We encourage everyone to come out to vote on Tuesday, May 19th from 12 to 9 p.m. It will be in Gym 3, so up at the top of our campus, we will have designated parking for anyone who comes during the course of the day.
And that is 2026, not 2025.
Yes, very true, 2026. I also wanted to just mention, I credit this to Mr. Pokowski. Last year, we started our community roadshows where we brought our budget presentation to the community to have interactive conversations with our community. I think that process has been very successful. We have visited multiple groups already. We have, I believe, 2 more to go. We're going to the Senior Citizen Center tomorrow. And then we have the PTA meeting that we will be attending as well. On the 19th, bring the whole family. We have an absolutely spectacular district art show. Our teachers and students work very hard for that, as well as we have our elementary school spring concert. So please come out and join us. It'll be a great event for the family.
Any questions?
Hopefully this shows that the budget that's been presented to you represents the shared investment of expanding meaningful opportunities for our students, supporting the arts, activities, and career readiness, maintaining safe, high-quality facilities, and delivering responsible and transparent financial planning. We thank you for your continued support of Akron Central Schools, and we ask you to spread the word and come out and vote on May 19th. And if you do have questions after the fact or online, please feel free to email anybody on the board or myself or Ms. Taylor or Mr. Kowalski. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Akron Central School District acknowledges that we gather on the traditional lands of the Tonawanda Seneca Nation. We honor the contributions of the indigenous peoples past, present, and future with gratitude for the land as we continue to work together with a spirit of respect and understanding.
With that, I'd ask everybody to rise and join me in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The mission of the Akron Central School District, a learning center community dedicated to the dreams of our students, is to ensure that each student realizes his or her unique human potential and contributes positively to society through a system characterized by valuing the unique gifts and dreams of each person, developing all dimensions of each human being, advancing the knowledge, skills, and wisdom of each student, nurturing and respecting the dignity of each human being, cooperatively working to continuously create new realities. With that, we would move on to presentations. However, there are none. The next segment would be a hearing of individuals and delegations. However, I have no pink cards. Moving on then to committee reports, ECASB delegates, Ms. Kafka, Mr. Sina.
So we had a meeting last week, and the focus was on the nomination procedure and approval for the executive board members, and focus on development of a procedural manual that kind of guides everything we do. That was pretty much it. That was our last one for the school year.
ECASB Legislative, Mr. Kenline, Ms. Kafka.
At our last meeting, we were kind of the center of discussion at the beginning of the meeting. Our two ex officio members who went on the Albany trip were the subject of discussion. They were complimented on their decorum and their professionalism by the other members of the committee, which was very nice to hear. And I know that we had also been approached by ECASB to provide the new board member training when it comes to fiscal oversight and responsibility. So we're a popular group, and it was a very good. It was a very good meeting.
Yes.
And they've got some plans for continued work over the summer to shape what is going to be next year's agenda. And we also will be looking at the fact that next year the state conference will be held here in Buffalo. So that'll give us some additional attention for Western New York and what's been going on here, what the efforts are. And I won't say that maybe making squeaky wheel gets the grease, but there were lots of comments about continuing to push to get with our legislators on the EV busing. Now that we're starting to get some of the information back from those districts that have taken the plunge and actually procured those vehicles, let's just say that some of the results are not as, what would be a good word? As not be as effective as they would hope them to be, especially in a large district like this where we know that some of our routes are longer than the bus is capable of completing. So that's something that as a committee, as a board, we will continue to address, and as a part of the larger group, also making sure Albany understands that there needs to be more local input into some of the decisions that will be shaping budgets in the future, and ultimately the expenditures that the districts will have to make to provide transportation to the students.
Just to add on to that, the the key factors I would say as well too would be from the standpoint that yes, there's some discussion amongst the co-chairs of the legislative team to cooperate over the summer to maybe try and engage a little bit more in a proactive communication blitz, I would so to say, or educational blitz, to try and inform just everyday people from the standpoint of what EV busing is, what are some of the limitations, what are some of the hiccups that are there. Also from the standpoint that there are a couple of districts that will be going through their budget vote, as we will, on the same day. Some of those districts are purchasing EV buses, and part of your budget is whether or not that transportation bond passes. The cost of an EV bus could be about $425,000 versus $150,000 for an internal combustion engine. So as a result, what our normal transportation bond would be for $500,000 is looking more like $1 million, $2 million. If a district were to turn that down, the state really hasn't identified what the alternative is, because you need to have that bond pass for the purchase of those vehicles. So it will be interesting to see as these bonds start to become, come out over this next budget, in the next week or so, if some of these districts get turned down, what ends up happening with that whole conversation. So those are the sorts of conversations that we are going to ECSB is going to try and think and talk a little bit more about and try to get that information out to the general public from the standpoint that, we're in the middle of it all, but to try and better educate everybody on what this process is and some of the pitfalls that could be introduced. The second thing I'll add to Mr. Kenline's was this past week, ECASB had a legislative breakfast in which Assemblyman Bill Conrad and Senator Pat Gallivan attended. Both were given, 15 to 20 minutes worth of time just to have a casual conversation with those in attendance about what they were doing in Albany, what usually by this point the budget should have been passed and they could have told you what was included, what was excluded, why certain things were done a particular way, what the general flavor and atmosphere in Albany was, the direction that was going to be taken. But because the budget is still in process, it's a little bit of, it's still up in the air. But they're always, both of those individuals are always very good speakers and like to work and collaborate with ECASB and the member districts. So we appreciate them coming out and having that conversation. Some of the members that were there were able to ask some questions. So some of that questions, and you may have seen some of that dialogue come through your inbox through ECASB legislative team as to what some of those questions were and what some of the answers were from the legislators. So again, it's something that we continue to advocate for and have those conversations because we do realize those relationships come in handy. That way we're not always asking for something, but we're building a relationship and an understanding and can collaborate a lot better with our legislators and Albany to try and maintain, probably the biggest thing in the meeting was maintain a local control to give us the wherewithal to kind of dictate what we needed to do with just some oversight and simple guidelines. The simpler is the better. So.
Just to, if I can just toss one more thing out there. If you take a look at the budget we're proposing for the district this year and the transportation portion of it, the expenditure we're asking to get funded will get us 4 vehicles. If we go with the EV route, that amount right there would be 1 bus.
Maybe a couple tires.
Well, maybe a couple of tires, but that does not include the other ancillary stuff that needs to be, like the charging stations and so on. So when you think about the future, if we have to replace 17 buses at a cost of $450,000 per bus, that's going to be a very expensive proposition. And there's a commercial that says, money doesn't grow on trees unless they're olive trees, and then you harvest them and press them for oil. And I haven't seen a whole lot of olive trees in Akron. So, it's not just up to the school districts to do this, but you as, our constituents, the people that we are providing the service for, also need to be aware that this is a future cost that unfortunately may have to be at least partially passed on to them. So not only do we need to be vocal about it, but please educate yourselves and feel free to join the band and help us out.
And to your point, just the one of these past meetings on our road show, we were presenting to the village of Akron, and a resident that was in attendance came over and asked the question in regards to what can I do? Tell me a little bit more about this EV busing. Tell me a little bit more about what can I do to advocate. And basically the bottom line was that I think all of our local legislators are on board with us. However, the suggestion is send a letter to the governor, ask them, can you look at this a little bit further? Send it to, the respective body leadership. Ask them to do something about it, because one person, one representative is something, but a lot of our local legislators are in a minority within the bodies that they represent. And from that standpoint too, it's going to take a lot more voices to make some sort of impact as opposed to just one. And if it's just the school districts whining about it, it's not going to have a lot of legway. So the suggestion would be, send your letter to SED, send your letter to the governor, send your letter to the representative body leadership, and do so, or ask us and we'll help you. So again, we foster a collaborative environment. So again, that's part of what hopefully over the course of the summer, ECASB will help lead a little bit of that conversation, but trying to get a little bit more grassroots advocacy, I think would be very, very beneficial. So your point's well taken, Mr. Kenline. With that, ECASB Budget and Finance, Mr. Kenline, Ms. Jagello.
It's much, much shorter. Nothing to report.
Capital Improvement Project, myself, Mr. Borkett. I know we had an OACM meeting recently. We've got one coming up, but the bids are in place. The third project is moving forward. There's just some additional conversations, I think primarily around signage, correct?
Yep.
And wayfinding.
Yep.
So,
We went through every single sign again. There are several of them. Done it multiple times now to make sure that everything's pointing in the right direction and really trying to take a step back and look at it through the lens of somebody who has never been on our campus before, to know where they would need to go. Lots of discussion around the area of reflection. We did have the opportunity to do a tour of the new press box. It is absolutely beautiful. It is quite the view standing up there looking at the campus. So super excited.
Indigenous Committee, Ms. Kafka, Ms. Jagello.
We do have another meeting next Wednesday, but at our last meeting, the three main issues we discussed were summer program ideas, the Day of Caring, which is the 22nd of May, some ideas of what can be done on territory to give back, and then a lot of time talking about the area of reflection, which will be in the sports complex, what you call it? Just trying to kind of come up with how to make it kind of represent the culture and what's important and really be the first thing that you see when you enter the complex. So we're still working on that.
Very good. Policy Advisory Committee, Ms. Kay, Ms. Kafka.
The last meeting, we discussed 4 policies that will be going forward tonight for a first reading. The first one is disposal of consumer report information and records. This has to do with the Fair Credit and Reporting Act, and those are in relation to records related to employees. The next one we looked at was the cardiac automated external defibrillators in public schools. Minor changes made to that. The next one is exposure control program. This aligns to the right to know policy. Is that policy? Done annually. And we did update that with some minor language changes. And the last one is the HIV-related illness. And that one, we just align that with current titles within our district. And our next meeting is Monday.
Very good. Strategic Planning Committee, Ms. Kay, Mr. Kenline.
We just had our strategic planning community update where our instructional coaches gave us a wonderful update of all the things they were working on, the 3 goals that they have been working on throughout the year, which can be viewed live streamed. So there was many great programs they implemented this year, and a few that we're still looking forward to, like the Day of Caring. Again, that's in next Friday on the 22nd, and all 3 buildings are participating in that. Another one is the 5th and 6th swap day. And the last one will be the Tigers meet the Cubs for graduation. But overall, the strategic plan is in year 1 and already achieved so much. They said there's lots of opportunities to expand many of these programs, and the plan is evolving and changing. They welcome community input. The surveys have been sent out to students, parents, and faculty, and they said they're just getting started. And Ms. Taylor just reminded us that the strategic plan goals are aligned with our board goal, district goals, and her superintendent goals. So overall, everything seems like it's off to a great start.
Good. Thank you. Youth Recreation, Mr. Cena, Ms. Kay.
The town of Newstead announced their new director, Justin Kladinsky, and assistant director, Jen Blood. So Mr. Steen and I are looking forward to working with them.
Very good. And with that, we'll move on to our next agenda item, the superintendent's report.
Okay, I have a few items to share, and then I do have a couple of slides to share with you in regards to our shared decision-making process. First, I wanted to share that we have begun the process of canvassing for next year's student ex officio board members. We do have one student board member who will be graduating, so we will have a vacancy. So we're in the process of collecting those applications and working with Mr. Dimitrov in the high school on that. I have some celebrations tonight that I am excited to share. So we received some goodies from New York State School Boards Association, and it's my honor to recognize some of our school board members. First, I would like to recognize Mr. Kenline for his participation in the NYSBA Board of Excellence Recognition Program. So he earned 75 points for his participation in ongoing professional development. So congratulations to you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Mrs. K.A. has earned a level 3 board mastery award for her participation in professional development opportunities. So she not only has a wonderful certificate, but an opportunity to participate in the complimentary training and a wonderful portfolio. So congratulations to you, Mrs. K.A. And then last but not least, Mr. Bukowski also earned a level 3 board mastery award, receiving the same items for his ongoing participation and professional development. So congratulations to you, sir. Here you go. So just wanted to thank our board members for all that they do above and beyond these meetings. It's a lot, so thank you for all of that new learning. I also want to congratulate Chandra Jagello because tonight she has been appointed as the new, I hope I get it right, the new director of assistant director of special programs, correct? For the Sweet Home Central School District. And I will say my relationship with Chandra goes back many, many years, and I can speak as a parent of a child who was in her kindergarten class back in the day in Alden schools. So not only have I had the opportunity to work with Chandra as a parent, but then as a teacher in our district, and then to work with her on her administrative internship. And just could not be more proud. You will never find another individual who is more student-focused and student-centered, who absolutely loves children and goes above and beyond for them. And again, I can say that as a mom, as well as the superintendent of Akron schools. And Mr. Genestri is a very lucky man over there at Sweet Home. So congratulations to you, Sandra, on your leadership and accomplishments.
Golf clap.
I also wanted to mention that UPK, the lottery is well underway. We did have the application process and it has closed. We did receive requests for 53 full-day participants, which is very high for us, so that's a very positive thing. 7 requests for half-day programs, as well as 5 more additional requests that were received after the deadline. So we know that our 2 full-day programs that we have here will definitely be full, and we are waiting to hear back on the state budget to see if that process gets approved, or that budget gets approved with that $10,000 aide back per student, and that will help support us in making our decisions on whether or not we can add an additional UPK classroom, which we hope that we'll be able to do. So stay tuned for that. We're very excited to have many new little tigers with us next year.
So with the 50, with the applications that you have, are you looking at 2 or 3 classes?
We would hope to be able to bring on a third class, so we can, as per the state requirement, we can put 18 students
Right.
in a class. That is the maximum, with 1 teacher and 1 aide. So we know that we would definitely have 2 full programs as well as a full third classroom, if that actually comes to fruition. The governor's budget proposes that next school year, it would be mandated that all eligible 4-year-olds have the ability to participate in a full-day program. We would be able to have the space to support that program, so we're hopeful for next year. So parents will be receiving their notifications for the 2 classrooms that we have, that they were successful in the lottery, and we're going to hold out hope that we might be able to bring on a third with that additional funding we would receive from New York State. Just looking for a little bit of guidance and an approved budget.
Thank you.
And then lastly, I just wanted to give the board an update on shared decision-making. Come over here to do it. So as everybody is aware, 2 years ago, we began a policy advisory committee where we systematically began reviewing our board policy. And that has been tremendously beneficial to me, but also our entire team, because it requires us to review each and every individual policy. It's a learning opportunity for us, as well as a checks and balances to make sure that we are in compliance with all of the commissioner's regulations. So one of the policies that recently came up for review was policy 3610, and that is participation in school-based planning and shared decision-making. So shared decision-making processes have been embedded within our district for a very long time, but in doing a little bit of research, we didn't have a formal articulated plan. So that obviously became a priority for us to work with our administrative team and our teachers to develop what that process could look like. For the district level, our strategic planning committee exemplifies what shared decision-making is all about. So it was important for us to embed that shared decision-making model for governance directly into our strategic plan. So at the next board meeting, after we go to our next policy advisory committee, I anticipate that you will see a first reading of policy 3610, as well as an amendment to our strategic plan that will include the required language around shared decision making. And again, this is something that's required of all school districts as part of the commissioner's regulations. Oops. So the shared decision-making structure focuses on a district-level process as well as building-level teams. So our district-level team has focused around our strategic plan, and then the building-level teams looked at our strategic plan goals and developed their own initiatives based on the goals of our strategic plan. So the district-level team consists of administrators, teachers, parents, students, board members, and Tonawanda Seneca Nation, and our goal was to review data and monitor our strategic priorities and make recommendations for improvement and promote innovations. So as part of our community update, you heard us talk about a climate survey that is currently underway. That data is a living, breathing opportunity for us to review our strategic plan, to identify what areas we have been successful in and what areas we want to continue to modify and grow. So I mentioned the building level teams focused on implementing the goals of the strategic plan. And those team members include teachers, parents, non-instructional staff, students, and again, discussing needs, monitoring progress, and the goal is to strengthen communication across the building. So the scope of shared decision-making is based on the commissioner's regulations, must be based on student achievement. So any strategic planning goal, building level goal, or district level goal must focus around student achievement. And there are some examples of areas where our building and our district can set goals. So governance and responsibility. The shared decision-making teams are collaborative. They give feedback. They give input on the strategic process, make recommendations for continued improvement. And then the board's role and the superintendent's role is to monitor personnel matters and budget authority to make sure that we can support the goals within the strategic plan, make sure our collective bargaining agreements are aligned with those processes, legal compliance, any policy that's associated with the shared decision-making and strategic planning process, as well as emergency operations. So the model that we would use would be a consensus model that focuses on identifying an issue, reviewing data, exploring options, and then reaching consensus. So you saw that come to life when our teacher leaders presented on our strategic plan earlier today. And a similar process occurs at the building level as they're working on their building level goals that align. The shared decision-making process, as per the commissioner's regulations, has to fully articulate a resolution process should the shared decision-making teams not be in agreement. And that would include an internal discussion and an opportunity to work collaboratively, mediation by the principal or superintendent to provide objective mediation to guide the process, and then a formal decision would be issued by the superintendent if consensus was not reached, and then board would review to make sure that we have followed our policy and procedure. So as mentioned, our strategic plan and shared decision-making, it's living, it's breathing, it's ever evolving. So every year we will review our progress, make recommendations for refinement. We will present annually to the Board of Education our updates and the work that we've done, and any required SED submissions required to the shared decision-making process. So again, it's required that we present our shared decision-making plan every 2 years to the Board of Education. It needs to live on our district website along with the building level goals and agendas for their meetings that they should have. So we've rolled out this formal process at the elementary school, middle school, and high school this year. And I wanted to give you a few examples of the work that's been done. So there's examples of agendas attached, some homework practice that was identified at the middle school, and a high school agenda. And if you have the opportunity, those are links on the bottom. Check and review the work that's been done. One of the things I'm proud of is the alignment to the district level strategic plan. So that is an overview of the shared decision-making process. Again, this is embedded in board policy, so the board will have an opportunity to participate in a first reading at our next board meeting, and then any associated discussion in regards to our practices and procedures around shared decision-making. But super excited to be able to bring this formal process to our district and really solidify that work and the importance of collaboration and focused work on specific goals is super important. Just a great opportunity for us to work collaboratively and communicate around those shared goals. Does anyone have any questions related to shared decision making? Okay. Well, that concludes my superintendent's report. Thank you.
All
Alrighty, then our next item on the agenda is agenda item 7, which is board policy and development. Number of first readings and a couple of second readings, with the recommended action being the Akron Central School Board of Education approves the revised policies, consent items 7L through 7P.
Move.
Moved, Ms. Kafka.
Second.
Second, Mr. Kenline. Any questions or board discussion? And the motion passes. Moving on, agenda item 8, personnel. The recommended action being that the Akron Central School Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, does hereby approve personnel items, consent items 8A through 8N.
Moved.
Moved. Ms. Kaya.
Second.
Second, Mr. Borget. Any questions or board discussion? That agenda item passes.
Okay, well, we're very excited. There are some people in the audience that we need to recognize this evening, both in person and online. So I'll turn things over to Mary to start.
Right. So Mrs. Wendowski is joining us on live stream, so she is listening to the board meeting. But as discussed at the budget presentation, we are in the process of hiring 3 special education vacancies due to retirements within the district. So tonight I'm pleased to recommend the appointment of Mr. Jonathan Lackey as a secondary special education teacher within the district. Mr. Lackey has served in a long-term substitute role in literacy this school year and has done a phenomenal job. He is passionate about creating a positive impact in students' lives, both academically and personally, with a strong focus on helping students build confidence, recognize their strengths, and achieve success. He's committed to creating a classroom environment where students feel respected, supported, and motivated to learn. He's excited to become a part of our school community and look forward to building strong relationships with students, families, and colleagues. He values collaboration and is eager to contribute both inside and outside of the classroom to support meaningful student experiences. And then outside of school, he enjoys spending time with his wife, Erin, and their 2 children. He's actively involved in youth sports, both as a coach and a board member within his community organizations. And then in his free time, he enjoys running, biking, hiking the Adirondacks, and cheering on the Buffalo Bills and Buffalo Sabres. John truly has done a wonderful job within his role in the district this school year, and I personally feel so grateful that we were able to scoop him up before another district did, and look forward to him making Akron his home. So congratulations, Mr. Lackey. And then Mrs. Wendowski is currently in the process of moving from Colorado back to New York State. So I'm pleased to recommend the appointment of Mrs. Wendowski as a new teacher within our school district, also within special education. She was inspired at an early age through experiences in assisting students in the Buffalo Public School classroom, and developed a passion for helping students learn, grow, and recognize their potential. She is dedicated to encouraging students to build confidence, set goals, and believe in their ability to succeed. Ms. Wendowski is a graduate of Akron Central School District, and so she's especially excited to return to the school community and help shape her and contribute to its continued success. She looks forward to building strong relationships with students, families, and colleagues, while also supporting students both inside and outside of the classroom. And then Ms. Wendowski hopes that her students will remember her classroom as a safe and welcoming environment where they feel included, supported, and encouraged to achieve their personal and future goals. Outside of school, she enjoys spending time with her son Carter, her family, and friends. She also enjoys camping, hiking with her Australian Shepherd, spending time outdoors, and cheering on the Buffalo Bills and Buffalo Sabres. Again, we feel very fortunate to welcome Ms. Wendowski back to Akron Central School District.
And then I would also like to recognize Josh, who's in the back corner over there. No hiding from us, Josh. We are very excited that Josh has been appointed to the position of maintenance mechanic crew chief. He is new to the position, kind of, because he's been doing a lot of work to support us in that area for quite some time. Definitely not new to the district, but new to that particular title. And I will just say that you would not be able to find anybody who works harder, who cares more about our district and the students within the district than Josh. He is literally a phone call away, and there have been times at all hours of the day and night that I have either called him or texted him based on an alert that happened on my phone or a concern about weather. So we are just extremely honored to be able to appoint Josh this evening into that particular role and congratulate him. Very much earned and long time coming. So thank you, Josh. I feel like we need to give everybody a round of applause.
Welcome aboard to everybody, and under whether new roles or new positions, and hopefully you find that this community and this district are just one big family, and it shows. So welcome aboard, and we look forward to great things.
Congratulations.
Yes. With that, agenda item number 9, our district items. The recommended action being that the Akron Central School Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, does hereby approve district items, consent items 9A through 9H.
Moved.
Moved, Mr. Kenline.
Second?
Second, Mr. Gallo. Any questions or board discussion?
Just like to add that the student-teacher calendar, we needed to amend due to a Regents Day being identified in January that conflicted with our grading record-keeping day as part of our AFA contract. So that is why we needed to move that rating day.
And that motion passes. Under the financial reports, no action is necessary, but they're there for your review. Special education, agenda item 11, the recommended action being that the Akron Central School Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, does hereby approve special education items, consent items 11A and 11B.
Moved.
Moved, Ms. Kay.
Second.
Second, Mr. Borkett. Questions or board discussion? That motion passes. Moving on to agenda item 11, board discussion. The only item I have up there for board discussion is just in regards to our super evaluations for Ms. Taylor and for our own board are up and open. My recommendation or request would be is if you have the opportunity to go in and complete your portion of those 2 evaluations. If we could do it by the end of the month, our next meeting, so 2 weeks, that would be great. That way we can kind of formalize them, wrap them up. I can give you a couple nudges before then, just as a reminder. But that way we can kind of formalize those, get them wrapped up, and then address them the first part of June. And then it's not listed on there, but the other conversation that will be coming up in the next couple of board meetings would just be a general discussion about what your thoughts are moving forward for our board goals. That will be a little bit more after our reorganization, the beginning of July. But to start to have those thoughts kind of go back through and look at what our goals were this year. We've obviously had the strategic plan presentation, so you're kind of aware of what those are. And again, just trying to focus, from the top down, what do we see as the needs? we don't have to recreate the wheel each and every year, but to at least look at what our previous goals were, how, what were we successful with, what can we strive to do off of those successes, and if something wasn't as successful as we had anticipated, what are some of the things we could do to supplement or support those to try and achieve those initiatives and those directives. Essentially, our board goals are kind of the high point to focus down on. It'll give Ms. Taylor her marching orders to kind of how to facilitate those goals and to realize those, which she will then in turn move down to the different building heads and administrative at that point to, again, work your way down through. And as the strategic plan was looking at it, was as long as we're in collaboration with all the different entities that are here, I think your analogy of a boat moving forward makes a lot more sense than a boat spinning around, and because we're all going in different directions. So the better we can do in trying to achieve those long-term goals and set that initiative, the better off that the rest of the district will be. So
And it's almost time to plan our board retreat,
yes.
so that's exciting too.
So if anybody has ideas, can move those along as well. Is there any other topics in regards to board discussion? All right.
Was everybody able to log on to Super Eval? And if you can't, let us know or let Mike know. Students too. Okay.
With that, agenda item 13, our school board correspondence. Thursday, June 11th is the ECASB annual dinner celebration at Clocks Grove. Please register with Ms. James tonight. Friday and Saturday, July 24th and 25th is the NISBA Leadership and Education event in Albany. Wednesday, August 5th will be the 2006 Western New York Law Conference at Salvatore's. Our upcoming dates: Wednesday, May 13th is our senior center budget roadshow. So yeah, that is tomorrow. Somehow I had those flipped. Oh no, they're the same day. I got you. And then PTA budget roadshow in the evening. Thursday, May 14th is the Scholastic Achievement Recognition Dinner being held at Salvatore's Italian Gardens, recognizing the top 3 students in our senior class, along with all the other districts in Western New York. Tuesday, May 19th is the annual budget vote and Board of Education member elections being held in Gym 3, the Orange Gym, at the top of the hill from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. Again, I'll just reiterate that the district does make an effort to keep parking spaces adjacent to the facility open and student-free, so that you can, as budget voting is open, you can get up there and you have an opportunity to park, get in, and cast your ballot and return. Also on that same evening, Tuesday, May 19th, is the district-wide art show. It is in the front foyer in the main hallways of the building, beginning at 5 p.m. And concluding at 9 p.m. This coincides with the elementary spring concert of the same day, taking place in the auditorium, beginning at 7 p.m., concluding at 9 p.m. Wednesday, May 27th, is our next regular Board of Education business meeting here in the high school, beginning at 6:30 p.m. With that, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session for discussion on a pending litigation and employment history of a particular person.
So moved.
Move to Mr. Kenline.
Second.
Second, Ms. Jagello. With that, the motion passes, and we are in executive session as at 8:17 p.m. We do not intend on conducting any further business at the conclusion of our executive session. We thank everybody that was in attendance for the budget hearing, along with whether being in person or online. And as always, if you have any questions in regards to the budget or anything that has to do in regards to the district, please contact myself or Superintendent Taylor or any member of our Board of Education, and we will respond accordingly. Thank you for your time and participation. Have a good evening. Go Sabres.
I want to do the